God, that was so bad. Okay. So Drake just released an album called Honestly Nevermind. I still can't believe he called it that. This is Dan from Audioface doing a rapid review of said album because he announced it and then dropped it just last night. And I've given it two listens now. Usually, as you probably already know, if I've given it two listens, my second listen is usually more charitable. So give that what give that what's worth. But this album is like if you took the dance hall tune to volume 4 style beats that kind of sprinkled through Drake's More Life album that actually I thought made that album one of his better projects in the past couple years. But if you took that and just spread that out through an entire 50-minute long slog, that's essentially what you're getting here with this project, and it's not great. It's garbage, really. I mean, how do I get into it? The song, there's an intro that kind of sets this atrocious mood. There's this song Falling Back, and halfway through, Homeboy is basically just going through and doing his usual falling back, crying thing. Like it's unbearable, dude. Like I don't know how people really sit through this stuff still with Drake. I don't know how they don't put up with this and like continue laughing. But it's a Drake album. They're Drake fans, but even the Drake fans are starting to turn on this. More on that a little bit later. I want to continue through my like first couple notes of rundowns with some of these songs. Falling Back being like the first main track after the intro. That's the one with the quiet crying and the crying and the wailing of the title track. By the way, then you get Text Go Green, which is another low key muted, honestly very forgettable passion fruit blem type beat from Drake here, and you really start to get the sense that yeah, this is going to be not much different. This is going to sound a lot different for a lot of Drake heads. This doesn't sound like a traditional rap record. There's definitely rapping in here. There's definitely the singing that he usually does, but it's presented in this dance hall offbeat kind of way. And after Text Go Green, the record just sets off on this really unbearable spin with this like unpredictable, this sorry, underproduced light flirtation with house and electronic music with absolutely none of the thought or delivery that usually goes towards making music for either of those genres. And you also get a bunch of these moments which end up doing, your stereotypical Drake sort of um, tangents, if you will, the Drake isms, all the different Drake things that make him as obnoxious as possible, such as the squeaky box spring mattress sound that makes the rhythm of the song Currents, to Sticky, which is certainly a high point on the record, and it's one of the rare moments you get of him actually being real and dropping character a little bit. But in order to get there, you have to swim through all of this, tired, corny subject matter about all the same stuff we've heard from Drake and Drake albums for the past 7 or 8 years. I mean, the obvious comparison here in rap music right now in June 2022, as I'm talking, is the recent Kendrick album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which a lot of people talk about, a lot of people had good opinions for. Again, sorry for the helicopter above, because once again, LA. But people really expressed that album was something they could sink their teeth into. It made them have a lot of listens. Yes, of course, you had Kendrick isms, who was oftentimes preachy at certain points. It really went deep into his whole past and all those different things, but that gave the record a purpose. It gave the record a direction. Like many Drake records, like almost all Drake records, I think, if not all of them, there is no concept here. There's no real unifying sense or focus other than this underproduced sound. And there's a big difference between minimal and underproduced. Minimal means you have something that's really well produced and complicated at its fullest, at its finest, but you're purposely ripping out those parts to create some dramatic effect. You're producing around that effect and mastering around that effect so that doesn't feel empty but still feels minimal. This feels underproduced, as in there just isn't enough production going on here. There are more sonic explorations that could be done throughout the tracks that are just missing. And the worst part of this is that you get artists like Drake who are going to start saying, and already I've been saying, oh, people don't get this yet, but by the time they do understand this kind of vibe, by the time they do understand this kind of sound, hey, I'll be on to the next, and that's just how it goes. Uh, brother, dude, Let me bring in another comparison here, okay? Kanye West. People love doing the Kanye versus Drake comparisons right now, for example, all right? I gave Certified Lover Boy to the whole like Certified Lover Boy versus Donda thing, which Jesus Christ only happened last year, not even a full 10 months ago. But I gave that whole battle to Drake off the core premise, off the tiny premise that at least Drake finished an album. Donda was released unfinished and rushed, and it was this 2 hour chaotic thing. Now you have a situation where Donda 2 has been released for months now, and it's still unfinished. Kanye West is purely at the point of making anti-music now, and his fans still like support it and stream it or whatever. They go through extreme lengths to stream it because as of right now, you still can't listen to Donda 2 on a regular ass streaming service. Two, what we're ultimately getting to, which is Drake's album here, which feels underfinished, like underproduced, unfinished. It's this point, this electronic pivot that a lot of rappers go through, but even Kanye went through like 15 years ago with Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and the 808s and Heartbreak album, where you start getting a lot more throwbacks to that or callbacks to a rap artist who's trying to transcend and go to that electronic sound. This is not what Drake is doing. Drake thinks he's done some big, smart electronic pivot, and I wanted to believe it. But in order to do that, you need to do something like what the pop artists who are doing 80s throwbacks are doing right now, which is not just calling back to one genre electronic or one type beat thing that has been done in Drake albums for the past 10 years almost, but something that calls back to many genres within electronic music, something that actually makes the raps work with the flows themselves, makes the raps work with the beats themselves, which you are not getting in this album at all. So that was a lot of my thoughts, but kind of just like slowly kind of getting things wrapped up here on this first review. And again, Sean and I are going to review the full thing on Audioface later this weekend with a couple more albums. We're returning. So make sure you check that out. Just subscribe at youtube.com/audiofacepod for more hard hitting and fast music analysis here. But like Massive and the song Massive, I mean, and most of this album is the same anonymous up-tempo music that's used in like, fast fashion clothing stores to kind of make you feel that, oh, inflation isn't that bad. I got this t-shirt for $7. And so you continue shopping. It's that same completely devoid of anything anonymous music that's going to be loved by Forever 21s and H&Ms just absolutely everywhere. I can already see that much coming as we're getting here. But Liability has ass auto tune, absolute ass auto tune. I don't understand why Drake does this because he can actually kind of sing and has the voice for it, but he nevertheless layers his voice in this absolute garbage. And it's so unbearable by the time you slave your way to the 21 Savage song at the end. The sampling is all wrong, and all you get for your hard work of trying to push yourself to listen to Drake, maybe finally doing something different for once, you the end result is this rigid, kind of rough, already trodden on ground that we've gotten from 21 Savage and Drake collabs in the past. Drake sounds a little more real. He always does that thing where he compliments 21 Savage and the work he's doing. But the fact is, even 21 Savage's lyricism doesn't feel updated quite for 2022. There was a point where 21 Savage, you could feel like he was getting better, he was improving, he was doing more wordplay, he was having more fun with the vocal. But even this feels phoned in, and not really hardly worked on. So inevitably, there's going to be some star-filled deluxe version of this project because, of course, there always is with Drake, and that's just how these albums get released. And it's going to be much more feature-heavy. Right now, 21 Savage is the only feature, but there's nothing on this record that has me motivated or hopeful for anything Drake's got coming down the pipe at all. The only reason I'm honestly doing this video is because it's the most popular artist and someone has to have a take on it. But thankfully, people online are starting to agree with the opinions that Sean and I have had on Audioface every single year we've been forced to review one of these Drake records, which is that Drake as an artist is way past his prime. He's not even doing the fun post art things that artists sometimes do once they've achieved everything they've wanted to do and they're just having fun. Like Beck or Damon Albarn come to mind with all their like creative projects. Kanye, not necessarily. Kanye's doing his own thing, turning his mental illness into his musical art, which is whatever. But Christ, at least that's somewhat less boring and like played out than what Drake is putting out this year and calling it his creative advancement. Anyways, I want to know what your thoughts are. I definitely want to know what Sean's thoughts are. Make sure to subscribe to Audioface for more.